Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Anthony Pope, certified criminal trial attorney. I wanted to talk to you today about the Alec Baldwin case. I mean, everybody seems to be aware of it, and I think there was always a question of whether or not criminal charges would be brought against anyone. Well, lo and behold, criminal charges are now brought against Alec Baldwin himself, who always claimed that he had really nothing to do with the loading of the weapon. It was the responsibility of the armorer, and that he was given the weapon, and he assumed, and that he had a right to assume, that in fact it was filled with dummy bullets. Well, it wasn't. It was full with a live round. And one of the questions is, why were there any live rounds on the set that day? And they have now decided, the district attorney, that they feel there's enough evidence to bring to a jury that, one, he should have checked himself and known whether or not there were any live rounds on it. Secondly, he was the producer of the movie as well, not just the actor. So therefore, his responsibility was even greater than just an actor. Because Mr. Baldwin always claimed, well, it's the armorer, he was really responsible for it. And Alec Baldwin actually filed a lawsuit against him. So it's an interesting juxtaposition here for Mr. Baldwin as to now being charged. And basically he's charged with involuntary manslaughter, which means that nobody intended for this result. That's for sure. This wasn't a situation where somebody shot at somebody or robbed someone. This was a situation where they were making a movie. And there was a gun that was supposed to have dummy bullets in it, and they were doing a scene, and unfortunately there was a live bullet in there and somebody died from that. But Mr. Baldwin always maintained that he never pulled the trigger. Well, clearly it seems that based on the evidence, he had to pull the trigger, number one, because a gun won't fire unless you pull the trigger. So it comes down to this involuntary manslaughter, unintentional, but was the negligence criminal? Was the conduct and the failure to know that there was a live round instead of a dummy bullet in there, enough, along with his responsibility of a producer, that he pointed a weapon, then fired it, and someone died from it? Is that enough to convict him of involuntary manslaughter? Well, I can tell you that based on the elements of the offense, if a jury were to find those circumstances, they could conclude that he was guilty of involuntary manslaughter, which carries with it 18 months in prison. However, because the involuntary manslaughter, unlike using a car or hitting somebody with your car when you were drunk, the involuntary manslaughter here is the use of putting a live round in a gun. So therefore, that criminal act could enhance the penalty if a jury decided to answer that interrogatory as a yes, which would then bring it to a level of 5 years in prison. So Mr. Baldwin, who's always maintained that he had really no responsibility for this, is now facing a situation that I don't think he ever contemplated at all. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. My particular point of view on it, I think if it's a reasonable jury, I think they'll conclude at some point that, listen, nobody wanted this poor woman to die, and that this was a movie set, this was a gun that's supposed to have dummy bullets in it somehow. And I don't know that they'll ever be able to prove who brought the live round on set, but somehow a live round got into that gun and the woman died from that. I think they're going to conclude it's more likely a civil case as opposed to a criminal case. Thanks for listening.